Hello, I'm Jason Bolden. I'm an Assistant Extension Professor for Food Safety. And today we'll be talking about food safety in the sense of camping and hiking in the state of Maine. Camping and hiking is definitely one of those things that people in the state of Maine, or if you're a visitor to the state of Maine, we all love to do. But we want to make sure that we do it safely and avoid things like food-borne illness, which can really put a damper on the overall event. So today I'll be talking about some ways to avoid food-borne illness and some steps that you need to take and precautions. The first rule with food safety is you want to make sure that you keep things cool. If you're talking about fresh foods or frozen foods, you want to make sure you keep it cool. The magic number is 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep it below 40 degrees. Right here I just have an example of a typical cooler that people bring along with them. One of the recommendations we have is you want to pack this with as many cold things as possible, especially many frozen things. When you're talking about food safety, bacteria, mold, or yeast, whether you're talking about spoilage or pathogenic things that can make you really sick, you have to make sure that that magic number is 40 degrees or less, and that they don't go above 40 degrees. If you go above 40 degrees, right around 40 degrees to 140 degrees, we call that the danger zone. This is the zone where bacteria, mold, and yeast will grow the best. These are the things that will make you sick. When you hear about bacteria, mold, and yeast, we're talking about pathogenic bacteria, E. coli, salmonella, things like that. One of the recommendations that we have is not only using cold packs, sealed cold packs that you can freeze in your freezer and then bring along with you, but also pack frozen foods. All your meat's frozen. Pack a couple bottles of water frozen so that as they thaw, you can use the water. Now when you're bringing frozen meats, it's especially important to make sure that those meats are completely sealed in a plastic bag. We usually recommend actually using a couple plastic bags like Ziploc bags. Reason is you don't want any of those liquids as the meat thaws to drip onto your other foods. Don't forget the meats are usually the area where you have the contamination problem when you're talking about pathogenic bacteria. So you want to make sure you seal those properly so you don't have any dripping on the other foods or cross-contamination. The other thing is when you prepare foods and you have leftovers, you want to make sure that you cool those foods. Don't leave them out more than 2 hours. The magic number again is 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Put them in your cooler, make sure your cooler is at around 40 degrees. And the last tip for that is it doesn't hurt to bring a thermometer to keep in your cooler. If you're looking at around 40 degrees, you want to make sure it's 40 degrees. Rule number 2 is you want to make sure that you clean everything properly. This starts with your hands. Make sure you bring soap to wash your hands. It's recommended that you use biodegradable soap so you don't leave anything in residues in the water that you're using. So if you're going to a lake, wash your hands with clean water. That's one of the biggest things. We also recommend bringing hand sanitizer. This is a quick, easy way to sterilize your hands, or some sort of wipe. Those are the biggest things. You can buy some of that biodegradable soap actually at stores like LL Bean. They have it right in their outlet stores and their factory store. Rule number 3 is you want to make sure that you cook it properly. And this is especially in regards to meats. Meats are your inherent danger problems. Basically meaning those are the things that can contain bacteria, pathogenic bacteria. An example of this is chicken. Chicken can inherently contain pathogenic salmonella. This is the pathogenic bacteria that can cause all kinds of digestional issues. Not so much fun to have when you're hiking or camping. So one of the things we recommend is make sure you cook it thoroughly. There are some guidelines by the USDA that recommend certain temperatures for cooking. I also wanted to talk about some foods that you don't have to refrigerate or keep frozen. Dried beans, dried fruit or vegetables, dried meats like beef jerky or turkey jerky. Also you have freeze-dried foods that actually have a whole meal in a packet. All you have to do is add water. Pasta, things like that. Those are all things that don't need to be refrigerated, and they're great ideas. So all you need to do is bring clean water. Now one of the things you want to remember is, do I have enough clean drinking water? You never want to rely on lakes, ponds, streams, things of that nature as your clean drinking water sources. So here are some steps that you can use or procedures you can use to make sure that your water is clean. First of all is you can boil your water. If you bring your water to a roaring boil, there are no bacteria, mold, or yeast or parasites that can survive in the water, so it's clean. With that, you want to make sure though you filter out any particulates. Things like rocks, sediment can be in the water. It's kind of tough to drink that. The second step or procedure is iodine tablets or purification tablets. These tablets are great. They do make the water to have a strange aftertaste, or a strange taste in general, and they don't kill all parasites. There are certain parasites that can survive. They do kill most bacteria, mold, and yeast. The last step is a small water purification pump like this. You stick this end in the water source, it automatically filters out all the particulate, and it gets rid of all bacteria, mold, and yeast, so your drinking water is safe. And like I said earlier, if you want to pack frozen foods, it's a great idea to pack a big bottle of frozen water, and as it thaws, you can use that water for drinking.